Studio with John Sly Wilson from legendary group Sly, Slick, and Wicked. Sly, Slick, and Wicked are a rhythm and blues band from Cleveland, Ohio that has been active since 1970. Members are John Wilson, Sly, Charles Still, Slick, and Leo Green, Wicked. They were awarded the Men of Motown Award from the Motown Museum in 2003 and were inducted into the Motown Alumni Association Hall of Fame. In 2004, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame added the group to its permanent display. Recently, they were inducted into the R&B Music Hall of Fame. John Wilson and Charles Still won the BMI Pop Award for Justin Timberlake's Suit and Tie off his album The 2020 Experience. LaToya Jackson and Andy Madadian's song and video project, Tehran, was put together by John Sly Wilson and is breaking all international records. Many multicultural TV stations are reporting record views and higher numbers on the way. John Wilson has produced and worked with artists such as Barry White, Mickey Howard, Janet Jackson, LaToya Jackson, and the OJs. He's scored numerous feature films and was the first producer to bring gospel to Japan, and is a lobbyist for the Fair Pay Act of 2015. John, along with other artists, spoke before the House of Representatives and was on hand for the Grammys on the Hill, featuring First Lady Michelle Obama. Sly, Slick, and Wicked also appeared in the documentary The Sax Man. Hi, John. Thank you so much for joining us. We are honored to have you here today. What inspired you to form a group?
Well, my father used to put a little speaker up under my pillow, and I used to listen in Cleveland to a station, WJMO, and another station called WABQ, and listen to the music, and I always was like, really enthralled and interested in the groups, the doo-wop groups of the time and the early groups. So also I had started playing trumpet when I was 6, so music was always there.
What was the name of the first song you wrote?
The first song I ever wrote was a song called either The Fool of Love or The Food of Love. I can't remember which one, but I remember writing it in my bedroom, so I can't even really remember how it goes. I just remember the title.
What year was this song?
That's probably about 1962.
Take us through your process of how you write a song.
Well, it depends on either if somebody says something, it could be, I can hear a melody line or something. There's no one set rule for me writing. It's just what inspires me at the time.
How was your experience performing on Soul Train?
Well, it was something, Soul Train at that time was the biggest TV show in the world, and everybody would get together in Cleveland on Saturday afternoon. And even though we had signed our record deal like 2 years before we were on it, when we found out that we were going on Soul Train, we couldn't believe it. Like I said, again, it was the biggest show in the entire world, and we used to watch it and look at the dancers and try to do the dancers, and not knowing that just a couple of years later that we'd be on there with the number 5 record in the country, and meeting Don Cornelius and some of the Soul Train dancers who I'm still friends with to this day.
That is so amazing. And being so young, you were young at the time. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, I was only 23 years old when we were on Soul Train. But we had been signed. We had been together 3 years as Sly, Slick, and Wicked. And by that time we got on Soul Train, we had crisscrossed this country at least 100 or 200 times.
Wow. A couple weeks ago, Sly, Slick, and Wicked performed at 333 Live in the beautiful downtown Los Angeles. How did you and the group like performing at this venue?
Well, it was great because, it used to be the Glam Slam, and Prince owned it. And I remember going in there when he actually owned it. And it was great because 333 Live, is club, and we were the first R&B group to play it. And even in the dressing room, it was wonderful because in our dressing room, it was his old recording studio. I guess when he would shut his club down, he would go in there and fire up some songs probably we have yet to hear. So it was an awesome experience. Sold out, with us and Black Ivory and the Delphonics.
How cool. I hope you got footage of that. How cool.
Yep, absolutely.
That is special. How did you and Leo Green and Charles Slick meet?
Well, we all, actually, Charles and Leo and I have known each other since we were like 15 years old. Charles was in one group, I was in another group, and Leo was in another group. So we were in the different talent shows together. And one day I was walking down the street and my group had broke up, and I saw Charles. I said, "Hey, man, what's going on?" He said, "Ain't nothing happening." I said, "How's the group?" He said, "Well, the group broke up." And I said, "My group broke up too." He said, "You want to start a group?" He said, "Yeah." And the original Wicked, his name is Mark Saxon, and we all went to John F. Kennedy High School together. And when Mark left the group, we went through a few Wickeds, and then Leo, who we had known from another group in Cleveland, even though he went to another high school, we asked him did he want to join with us, and he's been with us from that point to now.
Oh, okay. So the collaborative process must be very interesting since you all are very different, unique, and I would like to know, and I'm sure our audience would as well, just to describe your process with Charles Slick and Leo Wicked, the collaborative process. How do you go about preparing for a show?
Well, you go through like choreography. Each song has its own personality, so you try and find this correct choreography to fit that particular song. And then vocally, we work out the vocals. We have a vocal rehearsal, and then we have a choreography rehearsal. But then I carry a triple load because I also write all the charts out for the bands and the arrangements. So it's really an involved process. Wow. of getting together and putting a show together.
Wow, a lot of work, a lot of work involved, and the musical part and the vocal part that you bring to the table. How does that intermix with what Charles and Leo bring in terms of the rehearsing process, and how does that blend, and what do they bring? What do they offer to the table in that process?
Well, we all have our various jobs. Like like I said, I pull triple duty. I help in the vocal arrangements. I help in the choreography, and then I got to go split off and teach the band because I write music. Charles definitely works with the choreography and teaches Leo, and Leo kind of pick out what we wear on stage. He'll make suggestions and stuff like that. So it's like we all have our various jobs, that we do in order to make a show work.
Wow, it's very interesting. That sounds, just to wrap your head around that, it sounds like you'd have to set aside time for each one, and it sounds very tedious, but you guys always put amazing shows on for your audiences. What artists have you toured with?
Well, oh golly, the OJs, Newbirds, the Dramatics, Isley Brothers, Ohio Players, Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band, the OJs, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, B.B. King, Count Basie, Bobby Humphrey, Cannonball Adderley, Freddie Hubbard. Wow. I can just go on and on and on and on. Even when we see each other, you see each other in the road. Archie Bell and the Drells, Teddy Pendergrass, Heat Wave, Confunction. We run, we all be crisscrossing each other's paths. Either they be coming, we leaving, or we're leaving and they're coming. We all would run into each other. Sometimes, literally, we would be leaving a club and they're loading in as we're loading out. So,
wow. So that's a long list. That's a long list of iconic artists. Wow. What countries have you performed in?
Well, we've been in and out of the country. The one that was my favorite to me, we were up in Canada, and in a place that you wouldn't even think they would have entertainment, was up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is just on the tip of North America. And that was really a gig. One of the gigs that I'll remember is because it was a hard gig. It took us 4 days actually to get from Cleveland to the gig. We did 14 days straight and had to do 3 shows a night, no days off. And it was really cold up there. I think that's, wow. Even though we're from Cleveland and it gets cold in Cleveland, I think the coldest I've ever been was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I think it dropped to like 30 or 40 below one of the nights we were working. And it was really strange because, not strange, but really hazardous because of 2 things. First of all, it was in 1974 and the gas shortage was on. So when you stopped to get gas, you could only get $1 or a gallon or 2 gallons, and you never know if you're going to make it through the, to the next city. And, and you got 8 people with you and, just traveling with the 8 to 12 people. And then driving up some of these places were real hazardous. I remember one of the most, riveting sights that I can ever remember, and it's kind of gory, but I'll say it. We were going up through Maine and it had heavy rains in Maine like they're having in Louisiana now. And I remember passing a graveyard and some of the coffins were actually coming up out the graveyard. I'll never forget that as we were looking through the car, looking out the car, going through Maine, going to Halifax. And then when we got to going through Canada was hazardous because we had to travel mostly by day because at night, if you leave your headlights on, the moose would actually charge the car, and hitting the moose, a 700-pound, 1,000-pound moose, like hitting another car. So we had police would give us a moose warning. So we Canada I always remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot to go through, a lot to have on your mind preparing to perform. What inspiration? Well, we all know that there's a great appreciation and love for R&B music around the globe, especially outside of the States. Do you find that there's a different energy with audiences performing when you performed as a group in Europe versus performing in the United States?
No, I think the love for R&B music is worldwide. Just because another person doesn't speak your language, it's really fun when you hear them sing your songs, in English, and they don't know what they're saying, but it's quite a tribute. So, the love of R&B music is really worldwide. I don't know any place that I've been, and I've been around the world 18 times now, and I don't know any place I've ever been that did not love R&B music and that we weren't accepted, or, maybe we didn't get to that country, but something when you go into their CD bins and you see your music sitting in there.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. And as far as the artists that you have, the wonderful, iconic artists you've worked with, who was your favorite artist to perform with or work with?
Well, perform with, we did, in 1975, we did what they called the Cool Jazz Festival in the Kansas City, at the Kansas City Royal Stadium, where the baseball team plays. 80,000 people. And on that show was Count Basie. And here, when I walked in, we were actually, our group and Count Basie was, and his band were sharing a dressing room together. And to see this man who, my mother and father, adored, and who was iconic, and he was just as humble, and talked about music. I think that was one of the high points in my life. And then to talk to B.B. King, at that time, who was, was iconic. And here I'm sitting on a show with him, Cannonball Adderley. I will never forget that gig because we played with Cannonball on that gig, and that Tuesday he went to heaven. So we did the last gig with him. So
wow.
That was something I'll always remember.
King, amazing. And so many look up to him today.
Absolutely, and Count Basie.
Absolutely. Within the last 6 months, the hit song "Suit and Tie" by Justin Timberlake became 4 times platinum globally. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing accomplishment. Describe the musical and vocal arrangement of Show Nuff, where Suit and Tie was originally sampled from.
Well, I wrote the song in Louisville, Kentucky with Charles. We were on tour, and I just came up with the lyrics. I had my guitar. I always carried my guitar with me on the road at the time, and I ran to Charles' room. I say, man, I think I got one. So we ended up recording it, and next thing we know was #5 across the country. That's how we got on Soul Train and on the R&B charts. And they didn't have charts like they have to this day, you know, with Billboard charts. They had radio station from R&B radio station, R&B radio station. So we didn't know that Justin Timberlake was a fan of ours. And, you know, like I said, I did all the music arrangements, and you know, Charles and I produced, and Terry Stubbs, who was Wicked at the time, and we produced it. And the next thing we know, you know, here's Justin Timberlake sampling it, and you know, it became the 8th fastest selling song of all time. And you know, we all three, Charles and Terry and myself, won the BMI Pop Music Award for it, which is was really a high point, because the BMI Pop Music Award is a very not many people, let's put it this way, very many people, artists, ever get the Pop Music Awards. There's some iconic artists that I really adore and honor that have never won the BMI Pop Music Award. So I'm kind of you know, really humbled to get one.
Well, explain for those who don't know. Can you describe what this award actually means and why it's set apart from all other awards given to artists, the BMI Pop Awards? Explain what this is.
The BMI Pop Music Awards means that you are one of it's only 50 awards given out of the hundreds or 1,000 artists every year. That means you're in the top 50 of the greatest songs recorded that year. And actually, we came in #2. The only person that beat us out, well, you know, if to use the right word, beat us out, was Lady Antebellum. They beat us out to #1, but we had the second second greatest song of that year.
Tell our audiences what current projects you and the group are working on and where we can catch you guys next.
Well, you know, I'm doing personally, I'm doing a thing for peace. You know, the world needs peace now, from a couple of different entities, and plus we're getting ready. Sly Slick and Wicked, we're getting ready to go to Europe pretty soon, so we're gearing up for that, and some other parts in the country with some other acts. So that's what we're gearing up for now.
Well, I'm sure we will see you on social media and find out sooner than later, hopefully.
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me. You know, anytime you need me, I'll be right here.
What advice can you provide to upcoming artists or singers?
Well, my advice is to learn the business. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, show business, 10% show, 90% business. The music business is a business just like anything else, Xerox, Coca-Cola. So you learn that first, and learn, you know, contracts, you know, sub-publishing, publishing, how the business really works. And if you follow those rules, you know, you have a great chance of being successful. So that's what I tell any young artist, to learn the business.